I have been on a spiritual journey, a quest, if you may, for the past 40 years, maybe more. Probably, since I was born or lifetimes, whatever we want to talk about. But I have been on a quest to grow spiritually ever since I was in high school, but also when I was homeless and a drug addict and alcoholic and life was not working for me. That spiritual path was essential for me to pull myself out of that and create a life that I could live, a life that I could bring children into and thrive. So that part of it, that spiritual journey has continued my entire life. You've heard me talk about it when I had the crash and burn in my late 40s, when my marriage fell apart and my career fell apart, and I had to dig in even further. But the last 2.5 years, the last since I turned 60, you'll notice if you see me on social media, you'll see a few new tattoos, which is a great sign that some old guy has gone on a spiritual journey or has been to some medicine journeys. And I've been on some medicine journeys since I turned 60. But I turned 60 with an intention. I wanted to create. I wanted to know more about what makes us tick. Why are we here? What makes Mark Mark? What isn't Mark? All the questions that you have about spirituality. Who's God? What's God? Why is all this? Why are we 93 million miles away from a star, but stay in the perfect orbit so that our planet stays in the perfect temperature so that we can live on this planet? It's mind blowing when you think about those things. So the last 2.5 years, this spiritual journey has led me to some of the most difficult self-inquiries I've ever come across. I became such an introvert the last 2.5 years that I stopped taking any speaking gigs. I didn't want to go out and speak because I didn't really know what it is I wanted to speak about. I didn't like social. I didn't want to do anything social. I didn't do networking things because I was like in this cocoon of becoming someone different, all the while coaching, all the while running a business, all the while doing social media, all the while doing these podcasts. I even wrote The Rising Leader while I was in the middle of the thick of this spiritual growth spurt, if we want to call it. And a few people noticed the spiritual bent in The Rising Leader, and I tried very consciously to make it a book about leadership with practical guidelines and only touching on some of the spiritual explorations that I've been going on. But how does spirituality fit into leadership? This is a leadership podcast. I teach leadership. I coach on leadership. I write about leadership. And I don't really want to make a living talking about spirituality. So I've been spending quite a bit of time. How does this jive? How does this meld for you guys? How can I bring what I've learned to this leadership discussion that makes the difference? And there's a couple of ways that I have, but we're going to talk specifically today about spirituality and leadership. Now, I know a lot of people who take their religious values and bring that into business. You've seen people label themselves as Christian leaders or some flavor of religion, and they bring that value system into what they do. So they want to be fair, they want to be honest, they want to be loving, all those things. That's not what I'm talking about. It encompasses part of what I'm talking about. But for me, spirituality is something a little bit different. Michael Singer says it best. Michael Singer, quote all the time, wrote The Untethered Soul, Living Untethered, The Surrender Experiment. He's got an incredible podcast. There's like 150 episodes, and I've listened to every single one of them, and each one would change your life. But Michael Singer says, you know what? I don't care if you meditated and met God. I don't care if you sat with Jesus and Buddha at the dinner table, and you just had this amazing experience of the divine. He says that doesn't impress me because you had that experience. It's not here now. He says what's really impresses me is if you came to me and said, such and such happened on Monday, and I didn't realize it until later that it didn't bother me. It used to bother me so much, and now it didn't bother me. He goes, that little piece of growth to me is the biggest spiritual advance you can have. Something bothered me today. Yesterday, it didn't bother me today. I grew. And he says that's the kind of shift and change I want to see in your spiritual program. It's lovely to have these wonderful astral plane meditations and be one with the universe. But if it doesn't apply to your life and that you're more and more free of the things that kept you down, that's not spirituality. How did that jives with everything that we talk about with leadership and being in the workplace and also in your personal life. So when we talk about what makes a successful leader, there's a whole bunch of skills, but the number one skill that I see and a lot of other you know world class leaders say is emotional intelligence. It's EQ. It's being able to navigate relationships. It's being able to create strong bonds with people. It's being able to being able to handle difficult situations, difficult people, disagreements, difference of perspective. It's being able to handle unreasonable differences. It's being able to be so Ram Dass says, be here now. How does be here now translate to spirituality? How does be here now translate to leadership? And that's what the emotional maturity comes in. So someone comes at you and is really angry. Do you have the presence of mind to ask the question rather than getting caught up in their anger, figuring out what's underneath the anger? What's the fear? What's going on that's triggering this person that they're yelling at me? Do you have that presence of mind to be here now, to ask the question that will uncover what the problem is so that you can diffuse the situation? Can you make a mistake and go into the boardroom and own up to it? Yes, you're going to be scared. Yes, you're going to be embarrassed, but can you own up to it so that the group can fix the problem? That's be here now. The Navy SEALs say, work the problem, work the problem, work the problem. The problem for us is the problem comes up and then we have thoughts about it. We have fears about it. We have all this stuff goes on and we're spinning in circles until we can get ourselves into a state that we can actually figure out what are the resources we need? What is the outcome that we want? What is the support that we need to fix this problem? That's spirituality. Anytime you can get out of the monkey mind, anytime you can get out of your reactions, anytime you can get out of all that automatic stuff that happens and get present and work the problem and be here now. So we'll mix Ram Dass, Michael Singer, and the Navy SEALs for your edification here in this leadership talk. So that's what I talk about, what I think about for leadership is how can and that goes directly to the deep spiritual teachings of we are not our thoughts, we are not our feelings. We're something deeper than that. We're not even our personalities. We're something deeper than that. And the more you can connect to that keel that keeps you sailing straight, that makes you more spiritual. That makes you more present. If something that you couldn't handle yesterday or the day before, you handle a little better today and a little better tomorrow, you have grown spiritually. I love, for me, if I could name all my businesses and name all my books, leadership for spiritual growth, I would. Nobody seems to like that, but I do, because every opportunity, every interaction, every relationship, every challenge, everything that happens to you is an opportunity for you to grow and be more free. And that's why I do this. I do this so you are more free. I do this so, of course I want you to be successful. Of course I want you to make tons of money. Of course I want you to get promoted. Of course I want you to be a better leader. But none of that matters if you're in prison. And I know billionaires who are in prison. I know great leaders who are in prison. I want you to be free. That's why I do this. So spirituality and leadership go hand in hand. Now, if you can take those together, what you can do for the people who are in your charge is unlimited. We need leaders in the world. We need leaders who are connected and present. And again, spiritual doesn't have to mean God. Like if that doesn't resonate with you, no problem whatsoever. It means, but you're connected to humans, to other humans, and how can you make their lives better? So that's what I've been thinking about for the last 6 months or so, since I've kind of come out of this spiritual introversion and back into my world of leadership training, and how I'm melding the two. I would love feedback on how you like this topic, because I'm writing about it more. I want to speak about it more, and it's going to be part of my keynote going forward. Just want to make sure that I want to make sure that I'm bringing the goods as far as what it is I sell, but I also want to make sure I'm bringing for you what it is that's going to make your life better. Because that's what matters. You got to live this life, and I want it to be joyous and free. I love you a ton. Thanks for listening to me. Have a great rest of the day.